Hey guys, welcome to Chalchitra Talks. मेरा नाम दिशा है and this is my new show Dishcoveries, जहाँ पे I'll be picking up concepts that intrigue me but evade me. In this show, I will be talking to some very interesting people who seem to have a clue about it. And this season is about love. In this episode, I will be speaking to Sayunkta Singh, one of my very good friends from college who I always rely on for deep conversations. And I thought it would be very interesting to get to know what her thoughts on love are. And with that, let's get right into this episode. Hi Sayunkta, welcome to Chalchitra Talks. Welcome to my new show Dishcoveries. I'm so excited to have you here with me today.
So excited to be here today.
You know, when I was thinking of who I wanted you're on the show with me, out of all of my friends, you were one of the first persons to come to my head. No offense to any of my best friends, but that's because we've had a lot of these conversations. And for people, I'll give a little bit of background on our friendship. So Sayunkta and I have been friends for a very long time. We were friends in college. But it is only after college was done that we connected more intimately. And I have been having these conversations with her. And while she's known me for a while, she doesn't know me itna ki, like she's able to bring this objective perspective to our conversations. And that is why I really wanted you here. So tell me, do you think that love is something that a person can learn about? Is it an art that can be learned about through experience and knowledge and skill? Or do you think it's just a pleasant sensation that one happens to simply fall into?
As a psychologist or as a research psychologist that I think I am, I feel that anything can be learned, anything can be taught. A lot of things also are innate, something that we are born with. But some people who aren't born with these feelings or these natural, innate sort of urges, I count myself in a mixture of those people. We perhaps learn it from different references. We learn how to express this feeling through references that we see from, firstly, our parents, then people around us, if it's not our parents, other people, other lovers, then it's movies, it's art, it's music, it's so many other things that we learn from on how to express this love that we have. But is it an art? I would say yes. It's also not everyone's cup of tea. So definitely it's an art. It's not something that comes to us with sheer luck. Oh, now today I've found this is love and this is how I want to love. I don't think one day you're just going to sit up and be like, oh yes, now I've found it. It's so abstract. It's so difficult to contain in a box and say, oh, this is it. So I definitely think it's an art. It's an art. Maybe some of us can learn, maybe some of us can't. But we all have our different ways around it.
But do you think people should at least attempt to learn about it?
It depends on if that person really wants to know about it. I have seen a lot of these people in our generation are like, we're happy alone, we don't need it. Because we are overfed with this notion of love, we feel like, okay, we're okay without it. But for some of us, we're so into it, we want to know about it. Then it definitely helps. I think our generation sometimes needs it. Needs to read about how to express this love because we want a healthy relationship. We're curating this need for it, and it is good for us to have healthy relationships when we look back to our parents or the previous generation of, say, Indians, for example. We did not have enough references for a healthy relationship. And now with the whole culture of, say, red flags and toxic relationships, it's better to have a sort of reference to read upon, to learn from.
It's interesting that you brought up these terms like red flags and toxic and stuff because I have been noticing that TikTok, Instagram is flooded recently with these posts that are serving as guides for people to check whether they are in unhealthy relationships or not. And suddenly everyone has a psych degree on the internet for some reason. You must have seen these posts, no? 5 signs you're in a toxic relationship, etc. So while I'm very happy that people now have the resources to identify whether or not their relationship is a healthy one or not, at the same time, I do feel that it has equipped people with these terms that help them deflect the responsibility and put the blame on the other person, because these posts are also written in that way ki you are forced to evaluate your partner's actions more than yours. So do you think, like, as someone with a psychology background, how do you perceive this whole thing?
First of all, I find the internet to be a very dangerous place.
So you shouldn't go to the internet to check if you are in a happy relationship.
Especially not Instagram or TikTok. I'm sorry, but it's also very difficult because, for example, I have a younger sister, and for her, everything cool is on the internet and everything cool is on Instagram. And the first point of reference for any sort of information that comes out is from Instagram. And it's not always the correct source. It's not the most reliable, valid, these terms we use in psychology. These are not sources that are valid, which are experimented on, which you can trust. So, and we are very quick to do this. It's like zodiac signs, yeah. Like as a kid, you remember we would open up Mumbai Mirror and look at, okay, आज मेरे zodiac sign में ये लिखा है, तो ये हो सकता है, इस पे हम trust कर सकते हैं. अरे, this is not something you just read and you're like, हाँ, this is what's happening with me and my partner. And what you very interesting that you got this in about how the onus of labels is put on the partner. I want to ask this to people out there when you go in and you talk about me and him, or me and her, or me and whoever it is that your partner is. In a relationship, in love, is it not us before it's me and you, or is it me and you first and then it's us? That makes a lot of difference, because then in a relationship you're sharing the blames together, or you're sharing sort of the experiences together, even if it's a fight. It shouldn't be that everything's on the other person. It should be, let's keep the shoulds, musts and everything aside, but you know, how are you looking at a relationship when you are in one? That's very important to talk about the toxicity or the red flags. So I think definitely the whole social media thing is, first of all, that's very toxic in itself.
Yeah.
And then finding out if your relationship is toxic on a platform like this, I wouldn't say it's the best prescription to solve your
Absolutely.
relationship problems. But yeah, it has given us a lot of agency to accept, to reflect if our partners have not been really good to us. A lot of us are, in our age, we're very emotional and we're very emotionally abused, and sometimes we don't have the agency to recognize and stand up for it. So in that sense, of course, social media has helped a lot of us. But is it doing more harm than helping us?
That's something to think about. Do you think that people have started putting more of an emphasis on being more lovable than being a better lover and being more loving?
This is such an interesting question, actually. Okay, let's bring in this. I don't know how would men respond to this, but as an Indian woman or as an Indian girl, I have always seen not just my parents, but also just families and people around me subtly bringing in this thing for women that, oh, you have to be presentable, you have to be groomed enough, you have to look a certain way. My cousin recently, she's getting ready for an arranged marriage, okay, and it's just meeting men at this point. So it's as if she's been coached and guided by everyone in the household on what to say, how to present yourself, what to look like. And I'm just like, this is going to be so temporary, the way she's going to be presented. She's not going to be herself. And in her temporary phase of being presentable, that's when people are actually going to decide they want to marry her or not. And it just suddenly feels like, okay, why are we forced to be this person? Why are we forced to be this lovable selves? You know, like you said, do we? Of course we do. I think it's inherently in our culture taught to us.
Yeah.
Like, I was always taught to present myself in a certain way. In fact, popular culture references. Have you seen this show called Made in Heaven?
Yeah.
There's this whole segment where they show that middle class women in Delhi go to grooming classes on how to hold a wine glass and how to talk at the dinner table. And it is so true in some senses. I've been a bit lucky that I haven't had to face this. But of course this is happening. It's happening everywhere. We're always taught to be soft, to be something that people will admire, desire. Maybe I'm bringing the cultural part to it, but also on a personal level. As a person, I have always thought I want to be presented in a way that people like me.
Yeah.
That comes very inherently, this likability. You know, we always want to please people. We always want to be in everyone's good books. It comes naturally. We want to be accepted in the end, whether it's in love, whether it's in friendship or any sort of relationship. So I think it's there. I don't think it's the best way to be in, best sort of mood to be in, because sometimes it's not just what you get, it's also what you give. And I don't think we put enough emphasis on what we are giving or what we are bringing to the table, whether it's in a friendship or a romantic relationship. And once we start bringing the conversation around what we are bringing on the table, I think everything changes. That's what happened when people get married, and now suddenly they don't have to look presentable or admirable. They suddenly have to bring things to the table and ask the partner, okay, what are you getting? You know, it doesn't matter anymore how lovable I am. It matters how much love I can give you, how much support I can give you. Then is when we start talking about love and support and all of these external things that come after we say, oh, I'm in love with you.
But not even just like when it comes to marriages, even in relationships, like in the initial phase of a relationship too, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to like be as presentable as possible. And it's such an easy trap to fall into. You can't even like be harsh on yourself for it. It just, you want this person to like you. How do you think we can avoid that? Because मैंने कई बार सोचा है कि what if I just stop wearing, if I know that I like someone, maybe in the first initial phase of our relationship, I'll just completely stop wearing makeup so that I don't have to basically worry about being able to accept their love only when I look a certain way. So what do you think? Like, how can someone avoid falling into that trap?
So it's a lot about yourself in that moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not about the person you're going to see. It's about why you are this way. Why are you thinking like that? Has something happened that has made you think like this? For example, for me, the first few times that I literally have done this also, which is so funny. Kai baar, first few dates pe, I would be my proper self. Like, so presentable that the person who I'm going to see would feel a bit like inferior, and I have gotten this. People have told me that, oh, you're too good for me, or you're too. So at some point I was like, what does that mean that you're too good for me? Like, यार मुझे कॉन्फिडेंट फील करने के लिए मुझे अच्छा लगता है अपने आप को प्रेजेंटेबल रखना और ड्रेसिंग इन अ सर्टेन वे लाइक यू सेड you take some time to be comfortable or confident enough. So I think that's more about me. And after a few times when I actually got this, that you're too good for me, you're too like extra, and I was like, then that's not my problem. If I am happy in the skin that I am, wherever it comes from, you know, if it makes me feel happy, confident, if it doesn't make me feel happy, confident, like your experience sort of gives me that feeling, then it's definitely something I have to go through. But if your partner makes you feel a certain way in the first few times that you meet them, it's definitely not on you. You have completely every right to give yourself the comfort space that you seek. They accept you the way you are or they don't. So there's no question of avoiding it. The question is that, are you okay with this? Are you okay with being yourself or not being yourself, or wearing makeup or not wearing makeup, or whatever it is? You know, it's appearances matter, but not so much. And I am so against this quote that I've always heard, that first impressions last longer, or first is the last impression. Bullshit, I'm sorry. But I have met people who I thought in the first time that I met them that I would never like them, and they are the closest friends today. So I don't believe in this quote. I don't believe in these things of meeting people and having a first impression and just thinking of them. That it's basically us sticking to stereotypes and prejudices, and I don't think we should go and promote these quotes. But yeah.
No, but how many of us do have that patience to give people the time and space to show who they truly are and like grow upon us?
Yeah, that's true.
But like coming back to what we were talking about, so I feel like from what I understood, if you are completely comfortable with yourself and your relationship with yourself is the best, वो problem आएगी नहीं, वो अपने आप sort हो जाएगा. Like the reason why I had mentioned that example of me consciously trying not to wear makeup is because then later on I don't have to wonder and keep that pressure on myself कि, oh, this person only liked me because I looked a certain way. No, they liked me even when I did not look that way. So what I wanted to get to is basically that it's commonly said, no, ki unless and until you love and understand yourself completely, only then you can love and understand someone else. So in the case that you are still in the process of working on yourself and stuff, is it wrong to stay open to the idea of love?
Absolutely not. I don't understand why people, again, I'll bring in this point, think of you and your partner as these two different entities. For example, currently I am in a sort of relationship where we're both working on ourselves while working with each other. And I love that energy because it's so tiring and difficult to be on this journey alone for working on yourself. Right? We think that, we can only go to the therapist and we're going to get everything we want from the therapist. That's not how it works. We need friendships. We need our parents, our family, and all the friends we can get to help us work on ourselves. You know, it's not something you just do alone.
Yeah.
So definitely not. For example, you're not ready. You're still working on yourself, and you find somebody who's really interested in you, who really wants to be there for you. That doesn't mean you can just say that, oh, sorry. There is no completion date कि हाँ तुम ये दिन तक मैं ठीक हो जाऊंगी, ये दिन तक मेरा work in progress completely mission accomplished हो जाएगा तो तुम उस दिन आना. इतना आसान होता तो आज ये सारी questions पे हम चर्चा कर ही नहीं रहे होते. तो I don't think we're not separate people. We have to, you know.
Yeah, but like this is something I haven't personally gone through, and that's why maybe I have this view. But I can imagine that it must be very difficult to figure out yourself and work on yourself while you are in such close proximity with someone else, especially because जो भी तुम्हारे साथ हो रहा है, it does affect your partner too, और जो भी उनके साथ हो रहा है, that affects you too.
Yes.
So how do you navigate that? Like,
of course. So then you have to keep yourself first, because there's this thing that I understood even when I was studying psychology or when I was having these sort of friendships where I was not comfortable with the person going through some things and sharing those things with me. So I told them, listen, I'm not in the space to accommodate your experiences right now because I'm also going through some things. There's a way to communicate that. I think communication is a sort of the key to solve these problems or like you said, navigate through these issues, because sometimes it becomes too heavy. It becomes too burdensome to carry your weight and carry your partner's weight. So you have to sort of create a break. Ki this kind of information is not for me. So either you stop sharing it with me or let's take a break while you figure out this situation, your issues, and maybe you can come back from it. Because sometimes some issues are temporary, situational, which might end and then you can, resume back together. But it has to be sort of communicated well enough. And that perhaps our generation is figuring out still. So,
but आपको कभी ये नहीं लगा, how are you comfortable with the idea that there is something very important that my partner is going through, but I don't know about it and I'm choosing not to know about it? So, वो एक urge होती है कि I want to know everything about my partner, and at least I can imagine I would feel a little uncomfortable कि this is something very important they're going through and I don't know, and possibly other people know, they don't know, I don't know. But me actively choosing not to know about it would rub me a little in the wrong way.
Yeah, I think so too. But we have to live with some things, I think. We can't have it all. It's a conflict inside, of course it is. There's this insecurity. But you have made that choice, whether you want to know about it or not. So it does rub. In fact, something like this happened recently to me, and I wanted to have the both ends of the spectrum to myself, but I couldn't, and I had to make my peace with it. So perhaps that's something we have to think about.
So what you said almost makes me think that putting yourself first is also in a way putting your relationship first, because as you said, like, it was in your best interest to not know about this one thing and it helped your relationship, right?
Yeah, of course, it's better to not have conflicts and constant fights about this one thing, and trying to sort of not give it so much importance, but also make sure that you thrive through it. Your relationship thrives through it, while knowing that you and your partner are getting there. Not always you can be on the same page, but sometimes you take a step back and reflect.
That's very interesting. ये एक चीज़ मुझे जाननी थी. I wanted to know what your view on this is, that oftentimes people say that you don't have much control over your romantic feelings and you can't help who you fall in love with. So what is your take on that? And here I'm talking about like a bro code violation, okay?
Oh, all right. Wow. I think there's a distinction, right? You can't control who you fall in love with. That's one. And you choose to act or to not act on falling in love with this person, right? So you know that you've fallen in love with this person, but do you really want to violate that bro code, like you said, or girl code, or whatever it is, and just, go forward with it and act on this? I mean, is it worth it? Do we even know for sure that it's going to be worth it? That's something I feel that we should think about if we're actually violating this code and going forward for these sort of relationships. I definitely think love is a choice sometimes. Sometimes we can't help it, of course. I have not been able to help the kind of person I've fallen in love with. But it doesn't mean that I can't stop to act on it. People fall in love and then they realize that their partner is not okay for them. It's not their person fit. And then we decide consciously that, okay, we don't want to go forward with this. So that choice is very important. It's significant to our personal being. It's significant to our growth. It's significant to our relationships with other people, right? It's definitely a choice in the end when you choose to pursue this sort of romantic relationship. Choices are attractive. This is something I say all the time because that's what makes me fall in love for anyone.
Yeah.
So making the right choice perhaps is what I would say people should prioritize. Maybe you can't help falling in love with this person, but do you really want to go forward with that? Do you want to pursue a relationship with that person? Is it healthy for the both of you? Sometimes we fall in love for the wrong people.
Yeah.
Knowing that this person is not healthy for me, then what do you do?
That's true. And also, I feel like I can't help who I fall in love with is something that would only be brought up in a context where the person is not right for you, right?
Yes.
So, I think it, in a way, like, I think that is an indication that you can't really explain why you like this person. How do you, like, what is your take on that whole thing? Ki sometimes, you won't be able to substantiate with proper instances ki, okay, this guy is super kind and this why, and this is why I like him. Sometimes all you can come up with is, I just have this gut feeling that they're the one. But बाकी तुम कुछ actually बता नहीं पा रहे हो कि तुम्हें क्यों पसंद है. Yeah. So do you think like you need to investigate more why you like someone?
It's a very interesting question. And it also reminds me of so many Bollywood films at this point. Let me explain it like this, okay? In Bollywood films, say any favorite romantic film, say kuch kuch hota hai, theek hai? There's a whole saga, there's a whole meeting the love of your life, and then there's meeting your second love of your life. We think of love as something that ends when both the parties have confessed for each other. We think now this is it, this is done. Movies end there. लड़का लड़की मिले, प्यार हो गया, शादी हो गई, खत्म. We never talk about relationships. We never talk about what next. So I don't think love is something that ends when you realize, okay, now I've fallen in love with this person, I can't help it. It goes forward, right? On how you express this love. How are you working it out with this person? For example, like you rightly said, we always say, I have a gut feeling or I can't help it with somebody we are not supposed to fall in love with. For example, maybe this person is quite older than us, whoever we've fallen in love with. Maybe it's somebody who's married, somebody who's engaged in some other sort of relationship. And we're trying to make sense of this love that we feel for them. Maybe it's not love actually, maybe it's infatuation, maybe it's lust, maybe it's other things. Maybe it's not love, but maybe we're trying to put that in there. Yeah. So I think the first step towards understanding if you really want this person to be around you is to know that, this love is going to last for a while or however long that you think you want it to last.
Yeah.
I don't know. Love doesn't end at you realizing that, oh, this is love. It has to last longer, right? You have to think about what next.
So, how do you think you would have perceived love had you grown up without watching any romantic films or listening to any music or read any books?
That's such a difficult question because the earliest references of love that I can remember have been from movies, have been specifically from Shah Rukh Khan movies.
Ah,
My parents love narrating this story to me. When I was 5, they took me to watch Kal Ho Na Ho, and I wouldn't leave the theatre because Shah Rukh Khan had died. He had not met the love of his life and he could not marry Preeti Zinta. And I wouldn't leave the theatre in a way that I was crying on the seat, and my mom had to tell me he's not dead in real life, he's alive, don't worry, he's married, he's very happy. So love was so important to me, and it was always important to us as kids also. Frankly, I remember, I don't know, I with my cousins and all, we would play this game as like a toddler or a 3 or 4-year-old, Ghar Ghar. I don't know what was this thing about playing Ghar Ghar, having a house, having a family, having a partner, having the love of your life. I don't know why. Why? I still think about it and I laugh. I was like, why were we
were you
doing
lucky
this?
enough to be like the wife or?
Yeah, like
I was like the dog, so.
So it was, I don't know, I think without these references, we would only watch and learn from the people around us, and that would be my parents. Yeah, they had a great loving relationship, I think. Why am I talking about it in the past tense? They still do.
I know, like,
I'm sorry, my parents are
you're
alive.
gonna have to send this link to all your relatives.
No.
Arey?
This can't happen. Yeah, initially my parents expressed love quite openly. At this point, I think they're also tired because they're old. And but I think I learned a lot from them. Mind you, I hated reading all the Nicholas Sparks, A Walk to Remember, and all those other films. I was not a big fan of that sort of romance. Okay. But romance came to me in different ways. And it's funny because we don't talk about romance a lot when we talk about love. So that's something I learned from my parents. The romancing bit, them singing songs for each other, or we just unwinding every weekend, dancing together. I think all of these things, these tiny things are sort of showcasing the love, expressing it, which we don't talk about more often.
Yeah.
To us, love is either extremely physical or extremely non-physical. I think there's somewhere in between where the romance exists. And I love that bit. And I wouldn't have learned that if not for some great films, some great books that I read. For example, there's this Cantonese film called In the Mood for Love. In this film, the characters, they have touched each other in ways without even physically touching each other. And that is so pure, it's so raw, it tells me of these ways in which you can love people without even loving in the traditional sense or in the pop culture way of, oh, come here, let's hug, let's have a kiss, let's make out. And a lot in our generation, we don't appreciate it enough, I think, is we have this liberty to communicate, which our parents did not have, and we're not making the most out of it. We are texting and we're wasting it on screens. When we could meet in person and we could just look at each other's body language and eyes and figure out, okay, what the other person is feeling. I don't think we do that enough. So without these references, perhaps, I don't think I would have learned it quickly or learned it the best way. So I'm glad I have them.
So in your case, it did more good than damage.
Indeed, I would say yes.
I also found it very interesting how you brought up the difference between romance and love, because I feel like romance is like the fun part of it, and people often confuse romance and love. So how do you view them differently? What's your this?
It's so difficult actually, and especially in our generation when we look at it, I find everybody flirting all the time. And I don't know if I should label it romance or I should label it casual flirting. And this whole casual culture just makes me very, like it keeps me on edge all the time, because I'm like, what signals are you giving me? What should I make of it? So I don't like to be in that gray area. I'm the kind of person who wants to know for sure, okay, this person is interested and this person really wants to go for it with me. I have never been in relationships. The people I always saw, I told them, because I never got this.
You've never been in a relationship?
Up until now, yes. Now I am in one, but before this, and now I'm also in the one because for the world to understand what we were, we had to label ourselves. So that labeling bit is something I was always confused with. I never wanted to label my boyfriend as my boyfriend, but more of as a lover because I knew with that word that we were completely into this. With a boyfriend, there are certain expectations and certain things that you can cancel out on. But coming to that later, coming back to the question that you were actually asking me, the whole difference between romance and love. I think in our generation it's very difficult, which is why I kept saying I saw it in my parents. I don't see it much in our generation. Difficult for me to pinpoint and put a finger on it. But now in my relationship, I think I can. I know when we're romancing and when we're not.
Is he watching this?
I think he will. So it's a good place to be in. I think romance is the expression of it all. Romance is the sustenance. It's the thing that runs longer and you can say, yeah, it's still there.
So, coming to my final question, what is something about love that you believe for the longest time but don't anymore?
That it has to be perfect, that your partner is going to be perfect and you're going to have a happily ever after. And I don't think love is a lot of work. Oh my God. I feel rather that it's not easy, but it's not that difficult also. It's a sweet feeling to have all the time. It's something that you think of when you're traveling alone on the subway and you're like smiling to yourself. It's bittersweet and I still like the flavor. So I think so much to unlearn, so much of it to unlearn.
Yeah.
Always up for it.
Lovely. So, before we end this, I want to play a quick game with you. So, this game is called Change My Mind. What I'm going to do is tell you something I believe about love. So, you can either encourage me to hold on to that belief or you can change my mind about it. So, the first one I have for you is people don't deserve a second chance.
I want to change your mind about it. Of course, people deserve a second chance. We're all growing, right? Growing never stops. We're all learning. So I think people learn, people grow up, people change.
No, but is this like a subjective thing for you कि हर situation के हिसाब से change होगा or like you think everyone, no matter how badly they've messed up in love, deserves a second?
No, of course not. Like there are these certain points where you just like, this is not for me anymore. Of course.
So they deserve a second chance but not a third chance.
Could be.
Being in love isn't enough to make a relationship work.
I agree.
There's a lot that...
Yeah, that's what I've been talking about. So I think I agree with this.
Your partner not getting along with your friends is a red flag.
Yes. Yeah, I think so. Because your life is not just you and your partner. It's other people in it. We're social animals. So I agree with that.
So the reason why I believe in that is because I feel like my friends are an extension of me. Yeah. So if you don't like them, do you even like
me?
Yeah.
Of course.
A relationship that begins by betraying a third person's trust is doomed and bound to end sooner or later.
Oh, change my mind.
As in?
Sorry, I want to change your mind about this. Like,
yeah.
Like, I don't think it's doomed, right?
Okay, yeah, I have to probably provide more context here. Ki, suppose so many relationships start off by a person cheating on their partner and then getting along with someone else. Those kind of relationships, I think that they're doomed and...
Such a grey area.
Acha, yeah.
Because if you're cheating on your partner, so there's so many questions that are attached to this. For example, initially the first question that comes to my mind is, did you love your first partner enough? Or was that the problem? Or is the problem inherently in the person who is cheating? Because if he's likely to do it again, if he did it for the first time, he's likely to do it again. These are the two questions that make me feel conflicted. So, but that is not to say that the relationship that the person is getting into after cheating on somebody else is not going to be a good one. It can be. We can't decide fates so quickly or destinies so quickly. People change, like I said, maybe this person is not really that bad. It's very subjective.
So yeah, thank you so much, Sayunkta. I learned so much from you and you will forever remain my favorite agony aunt. I'm going to come to you with all of my problems. I hope that's okay.
Wow, is this like a free therapy session?
Which we just... That's what I'm doing, Me sitting here with all of my doubts about love, hoping that I get some clarity.
I think it's both of us. We can both learn from each other. next time I get to interview you.
Absolutely, let's do that. But I'm pretty sure a lot of your fans are going to be here watching this video. Can you
I have no
please
fans.
quickly
I have
tell
no
them?
fans.
Oh, okay, please don't be humble. But can you please quickly tell them to subscribe to Chalchitra Talks?
Please do subscribe to Chalchitra Talks, and please look at my beautiful friend interview amazing people while being amazing herself. Thank you so much.
Thank you.